Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today I have another guest with me, Bob Wittenberg. Bob, how are you doing?
I'm doing great.
I'm glad we got to do this together.
I am too.
Um, so I'll kind of give you a rundown on what this podcast is so you
Okay.
know. Um, it's called Shells and Shadows, and what I try and do is bring on young men in particular who are navigating life, searching for direction, searching for answers. Um, and then guys, so we call those morning of life men, men who are building themselves, finding out who they are, exploring the world, kind of in an adventure state, my age. And then there's guys who we call them afternoon of life guys,
I'm
and
evening.
yeah, I
I'm
mean,
evening.
and afternoon of life guys are in this middle point where they're looking back and looking forward at the same time. And then I have never had an evening of life guest where um, people who are able to share insight and look back upon their years of experience.
I hope I don't disappoint you.
You won't.
Okay.
We've talked outside the podcast, but now we
Right.
have a chance to do it on air. And
Great.
my hope is that some people will be able to hear the stories that you share today and um, gain perspective, gain insight, and take away value from some of the lessons that you've learned over your
Okie
years.
dokie.
All right. So,
Right.
Bob, how old are you for the crowd?
92 will be 93 in August
Wow.
23rd.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, man, it is well. I'm blessed.
You are blessed. Where I want to start is you are someone who doesn't miss a week of shul or hardly misses a week of shul, coming to synagogue on Saturdays. And I've always been curious to know, when did you start practicing Judaism, and what brings you back to synagogue every week on Saturday?
Well, I'm a Jew. I was born a Jew. I'm going to die a Jew. But I was away from the shul for probably 50 years. I had a daughter, unfortunately, in 2013, she passed away. She was only 53 years old. She was a drug addict and she really killed herself, but a really smart, bright girl. And when I realized how sick she was, they were building a Chabad in Boynton Beach. And my wife and I would go by and I used to laugh. I said, honey, look at these. They're building this huge place. Are there any Jews here? Orthodox Jews. And I found out there were a lot. And she took a turn for the worse at one time. And I just happened to fall in there. And I met a guy by the name of Howie Cohen, who was retired. He was a principal of a New York City school, in Brooklyn school. And when he retired, he was a principal in a yeshiva in New Jersey. Really, really bright man and helped me in a lot of stuff that I don't know, but I do less than. And the men in the shul were very giving, and I felt pretty comfortable there. And it was kind of a help me get through that stage of my life and my daughter's life. And in fact, this one of the rabbis, the assistant rabbi or second rabbi, was going to Rabbi Rachik, whose folks have been in Chabad for years. His dad was a leader. The Rebbe sent him out to California. He was the first Rebbe he sent out in Los Angeles. He just passed away a couple of years ago. And just a super guy. He went to yeshiva with Rabbi Willem and Pierre Gott. So he taught very, very well. In fact, my wife, let her rest in peace, loved to go with me to go to his lessons because she was so interesting. He made it, he made Judaism interesting. So I started to come back, and I never came during a week, but I would probably go Friday nights occasionally, but I tried to do Saturday every week. And the rabbi there was Rabbi Cement, and I was about 2.5 miles from there. If you live in southern Florida, in the summertime, which is extremely long, summer starts in April and ends in December, I guess. And I would drive over 2.5 miles. It was like 100 degrees. And I said to the rabbi, I drive over, Rabbi. I don't hide my car. I go into the lot. Should I not come? His answer was, I want you in shul. He didn't answer yes or no, but he's, I want you here if you can be here. So I did the same thing with Rabbi Willem. I'm about 2.5 miles from the Chabad that I go to on 14th Street. And I know I wouldn't walk it. First of all, going there is mostly uphill, and I don't have any desire to. And Rabbi, he never questioned it. He gave me, here, you get. My wife had a handicap sticker for her car, which I kept when she passed away. So I parked there. And I like him. I like Rabbi Willem a lot. I like the young kids that are coming there, basically. And a couple old farts like me there are pretty nice too. Richie behind me, the doctor from the Army. Uh, I told him this week he's a real Trumpnik, and I'm a pretty liberal guy. I was very conservative when I was younger. I guess when I was making a lot of money. And that's not true. I was always basically a moderate. And I said to him just this past week, we had a big lunch at the shul 2 weeks ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
And his wife came, and I said, well, Rich, are you happy what's going on with your Trumper? He says, yeah. I said, you know what? We should not talk politics because I'm going to get in trouble. And I like you. I don't want to become to dislike you. But he's a nice guy. And there's a couple other, I don't even know their names. They come regularly to shul.
A lot of young guys too.
Yeah. No, I'm amazed at the Max and that group of guys that come are so well educated in Judaism, which I'm not. My dad is from Odessa, Russia, and he was Jewish, of course. He never really practiced it. I don't even know if he believed it. I don't kind of believe it half the time. But I don't know, I'm comfortable there. If I wasn't comfortable, I wouldn't go.
And it's good. We have a good community here.
I think so.
And a good mix of younger guys and older
Yeah,
guys. And I'm
yeah.
sure it makes it more of a lively synagogue to be in.
I mean, it's really funny one day I'm back in Boulder. I came back to Boulder because my two kids live here. And I've been coming to Boulder for, I guess, 30, 35 years, 40 years regularly because they're here. And we finally decided we got very, very tired of Florida. The heat is there all the time. And it's very level. It's very uninteresting terrain. And we just decided we'll come back. And the kids found that place for me where you picked me up today. My children found it. I was very content to live in a hotel the rest of my life. I kind of liked hotel living. It was a bad idea because my wife had nothing to do. So we're here.
We're here. So you're here now living in Boulder. I want to rewind a little bit.
Go ahead.
Because I know you just these past couple of years. Why don't we go back and tell me where you grew up, how it was like living where you were living in the 1930s and 40s, growing up where you were.
The 30s, I don't remember too well, although I was in the
You're
30s.
probably a little
But I was
young.
born in Wilmington, Delaware. That's what my birth certificate says. I don't remember it. And then my parents moved to Philadelphia. My dad is probably one of the smartest men I've ever met. But he had absolutely no ambition. He wanted to make a good living, take care of the family, read a book every day, which he did. And they moved to Philadelphia, what they call a bodega today, but a neighborhood grocery store. But we had deli and different stuff in there. And I was raised in Philly. I got married pretty young. I was 21 when I married Rita. We got together I met her on a hayride from one of the Jewish organizations, women's, girls. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a big organization. And we liked each other, and we wound up marrying each other. From Philadelphia, after I got married, there was the Korean War going on, the police action that they called it. And everyone had to register. And I was lucky enough to get drafted about a month after I got married. And I had to report to the Army, I think in January, February of 53, and went through the basic training in Indiana, Fort Camp Atterbury. It wasn't a fort, right in Indianapolis. And went home for after basic training, hoping that I would go to Germany or stay in the States. I was on the baseball team, and I thought that was going to help me. I was a pretty good ball player, hardball, and lo and behold, I got my orders for Korea. And all I want to do is get my time in, not get killed, and come back. But I was fortunate going over to Korea on a ship. The first armistice happened, and it happened as we were crossing, and our ship couldn't land where it was supposed to land because the agreement with the North Koreans was that for every whatever the forces are now, whether we're 60,000 or 100,000, I don't know, you couldn't exceed that. So we got there and we were, I don't know, maybe 1,700, 2,000 GIs on a boat. So we landed in Japan, and for whatever reason, they pulled everyone's records, and you took a test. It was a very simple test, and only about 20% passed. I was one of the 20%, and my buddy from Philadelphia. And we went to firefighting school right outside of Hiroshima, Japan, for I don't know 10 or 15 weeks, and then we were both transferred over to Korea. I went to Incheon. I don't know if you remember your geography. That's right in the middle, right below the 30th parallel. And my buddy Jesse went to Busan in the fire department. And when I look back on it now, I really had a good time there. We drank a lot, we ate a lot, fooled around a lot. It was interesting. I don't remember any bad times. And we never saved a Korean's house. Never. We would knock it down with our hoses because we were kind of, flimsy. And when I came back from Korea, I went back to Philadelphia, and I started to work at a place called Gimbel Brothers. They were a nationwide chain at the time, retail chain. And I slowly progressed there, and I became a buyer there, a boys' wear buyer. And then someone offered me a job to come to Washington to start this kind of a Walmart thing with a food company called Giant Food. And I was like the only professional person there. They were all took people from the stores, and I had a good retail education. And I progressed there pretty quick there too. Came in as a boys' wear buyer, and quickly they made me the menswear buyer also. And within a year, I was a divisional merchandise manager, which meant that I was in charge of 5 or 6 buyers. And I think after the 4th or 5th year, I became general merchandise manager, which was all the software part of the company. Anything made with a needle, that was my responsibility. Had a lot of fun there and made some good money. And from there, we went to New York because one of the guys from the food side, who I was very fond of, really smart guy, Bernie something, can't think of the second name, but he was a vice president on the food side, and he was promoted to president of a company called something in New York. I don't remember the name. He said, Bob, why don't you come with me? I'll make you vice president. He knew what I was making because he was on the board there at Giant, and he doubled my salary to go there. So I said, I can't turn it down. It's probably a big mistake because the company I was with was a great company, great benefits, stock things, that they would give me. And somehow, but I went there, and when I got there, I knew it was the wrong thing. The company was bad. Everyone was taking graft, and it just was a bad situation. And I was there for about a year, I guess. And maybe more, maybe 2 years, because we bought a house there. Then I could see they were not going anyplace. They sent me down I started a chain of stores at Giant called Pants Corral, which was Levi stores, because I always liked Levi as a buyer. And they weren't doing anything with companies like mine. They wouldn't sell them. I sold department stores, specialty stores. So we started a chain. I think when I left, I wanted to do it for myself. And I went to the president of the company, who I was very fond of, and he was very fond of me, evidently. And I said, Izzy, I'd like to do this for myself. Can I do it? And still work at the company. She said, no, you got to do this or that. So I said, well, I really want to do this. He said, do it for the company. It'll be easier. I got a lot of money. We'll open stores quickly. So we opened the stores, and they were very successful. I made more money. And I did that, stayed there for a while.
And these stores were,
I
this
mean,
was clothing retail?
the stores when they brought me in was in 1978. Walmart was established in 1962, and by the 80s they were dominant in the country. They were incredible. Our company tried to emulate them. They were actually doing it before Walmart. Half of the big food store with food, and half with, like Walmart has these big stores now. And the food guys really despised us because the company was favoring us. They paid us more money, and the way we were doing it was probably wrong. They didn't go after it all the way. So after a couple of years, I knew they were going to sell it or close it up, and I think that's when I left retailing. So one of the manufacturers said, "Bob, you'd be a good person for us for marketing." And I was very friendly with the Levi guys. And this guy wanted to take Levi's and make Levi's socks. And he thought through me, with my connection, we can do it. So and his friend of mine from Philadelphia and Atlantic City. And he came into that company marrying the boss's daughter. And eventually he ran the company. He was really a bright guy. I hope he's still alive. And he said, Bob, come there. I'll make you president of the division. And you'll be in charge of special projects. But Levi that's what I want to do. And we didn't get it though. So I got Wrangler socks for him. So he made me president of Wrangler socks, which was pretty good. And I'm trying to think what I did after that. I didn't like it. I wanted to get the hell out of New York. I love New York and I hated New York. If you ever lived there or been there, you know what I'm saying.
It's exactly what a lot of people describe.
If you're a millionaire in New York, it's the greatest city in the world. Living in Manhattan, there's no better place for shows, restaurants, museums, educational things, food. But if you're not, get the hell out. So I said to my wife, I really want to go to the West Coast. And one of the companies there offered me a job there at half what I was making. But they'd bring me in. And I said, we can do that. I'll make enough that won't be long. And we moved out there. I was out there for about 9 months while Rita was trying to sell our house and get everything in order. And from there, I was working for this company called Eli Walker. They were kind of a mediocre. They made everything in clothing, Western shirts, jeans. And somehow I navigated with these guys that I liked very much. They were looking for to get Levi's to sell in the gray market, Walmart and Kmart. They wanted Levi's, but Levi wouldn't sell them. So these guys would accumulate that whatever product they wanted. Nike shoes, New Balance, Godiva chocolate. And this company a couple guys in that company were trying to do that. And they wanted some Levi's, and I made a call up to Levi. Levi wasn't going to sell them to me, but they told me this guy was going out of business. Anyway, in one fell swoop, I was making at that time probably $50,000 a year, maybe, because I really took a big cut. But anyway, on that one transaction, I made $54,000. And I didn't do anything. I said, you have the jeans, this guy wants to buy it, and these guys each paid me a fee. One guy paid me a quarter pair, one guy paid me a nickel a pair. And the guy who bought them all wrote me a check for $54,000 when he got it. So I said, this is good business. Well, these guys who I was working with said, we can't keep paying you, Bob. You got to come in. We'll make you a partner. So I got to be a partner of this thing, Concord. And for 3 or 4 years, it was great. Made a ton of money, and we traveled a lot. Our accountant would say, "Okay, you made so much money, you got to spend this money or give it to Uncle Sam, pay taxes." So the head. Am I talking too fast?
No, you're good.
The partner, the major partner, who was from Detroit, nice man, fought in the Battle of Bulge, which really surprised me. A little short, jumpy guy in World War II and survived. And he loved being a travel agent. Max, you make up where we're going. So we'd go to Singapore one year and Japan. And one year we went to Italy and Israel. And the company picked up everything. And we had spending money of our own if we wanted to do something else. And we did that. But I could see that was coming to an end. And I was doing some business with a company called Best Products. They were catalog stores. I don't know if you even know about them. They were dinosaurs. There was a time when you couldn't buy a toaster in a department store, and you went to these catalog stores. There was only two big ones, one in Nashville, and this company Best that my buddy became president of. And he gave me a job to do some consulting with them, which I did, and they paid, and they liked me. And they said, "Look, my wife hated the West Coast. I loved it. Have you ever been on the West Coast? It's a long period of time."
Not for a long period of time, but my mom is from there. My dad lived there, and
Okay.
they have mixed feelings about it too.
Yeah. Well, I loved it. My wife hated it because every time I'd take a trip overseas or something, there'd be an earthquake and it petrified her. So I was doing business with this company Best. I could see my business was really going to go down. We oversold Kmart a lot of goods. They owed us a lot of money when they went bankrupt. And we lost a good bit of money with the banks. But it was all money that I'd made with them doing nothing really. And they wanted me to come to work for them. So I gave the president of the corporation really tough thing. I said, "Here's what I want. I want X amount of dollars. I want you to move me. I want you to pay for my relocation thing. I want you to help me buy a home here in Richmond." He said, "Okay, okay, okay, okay." So I came. And it was really a good move. They went bankrupt at about a year and a half later. And it was a dinosaur. And they just never moved with the times. But they had a great company at one time. And I sort of did that. And then I went on my own business again, marketing, doing some consulting work. Well, I did a lot of consulting work, I guess. And I used to charge them too much money for the time, but I said, "Well, maybe it's $1,000 a day in expenses." And these jerks would hire me. So I took advantage of it. But I did good for them too. And I guess my 70th birthday, I was working with a buddy doing some things with his company. He said, "Listen, Bob, you got to retire because my brother's out of work. And I'm going to have him give me your job." Okay. I had enough. So I retired when I was 70, which is 22 years ago now. I never thought I'd last that long. I thought I'd run out of money. But that kind of gives you kind of a synopsis of my
Yeah, thank
time.
you. I have so many questions now. So to
Okay.
start, in all your time in business and working with people and the journey you went on in building your career, what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned either through your successes or your mistakes?
Be nice to everybody. Really. It's much easier to be nice than be nasty. And basically, I really like people, as you can tell. And I had a kind of gift of gab. I knew a lot about a little. I knew a little about a lot of things. The last company that I worked for, uh, my buddy's company, I was instrumental in getting a franchise from Caterpillar. You know, the earth moving people. We were going to make clothing and put the Caterpillar name on it. Well, at that time, I guess about 1980, 81, 82, around that time, we couldn't sell it for anything in the States. And I met a guy from England. He said, "Bob, it's like polo over here, Cat. That's a great name. Why don't you come over here and sell it?" So I convinced the guy who owned the company, "Let's try it." He said, "Okay, Bob, you go over, spend as much time as you need there. Try not to spend too much money, But we had our own travel agent. They put me in the best places. We flew first class. So we spent a lot of money. But we made a lot of money because over there it was really good. We would take a T-shirt, kind of like you wear, but white, put a cat CAT on it. It cost us total $3.75 or $4, and we were wholesaling it at $12. That's tremendous profit. And they were doing great. They were selling them for $50.
Wow.
So everybody liked it, and that lasted for a while. And Caterpillar saw that they made a mistake giving us the franchise. They wanted to take it back, and they sued to get it back. And the trial was in their hometown, someplace in Illinois, and they won the verdict, and we lost the license for Caterpillar. And if we had a better lawyer, we would have won. But when that happened, I said, I'm getting too old to start crap again. And that's when I said, okay, fine, let your brother come in. I'm retiring. So I retired at 70, figuring I'd get 10 good years and then drop dead. But I fooled them all, and I'm still here, and hope to stay for a couple more years.
Well, yeah, thank you for that story. Another question I have for you is, for a young person like myself, or anyone that may be listening and is looking to find a career path, or follow a particular passion, how would you direct them to go
Well,
about that?
today, getting it in marketing, selling, sales is very difficult because when I was doing it and making the good bucks that I was making, I would talk to the Walmart buyer every day. I would talk to the Kmart buyer every day. How's Johnny? How's honey, your wife, Cecilia? And oh, by the way, you need some more of this stuff. And it was for me, it was very easy to sell them product that I would make money on. Today, that personal relationship has really changed. And if you're not computer literate, you're in trouble. If I had to do it today, I'd starve to death, I think. Because I like doing a computer, but not to keep, a spreadsheet to me was something to give me a pencil. I had a spreadsheet. You sold somebody this year, January, February, March, and this is what you need for next year. So I don't know if any of my grandkids said to me, Pops, I want to go into retail, I got to say, forget about it. Go to school, get a trade, become a doctor, become a lawyer. That's my feeling about it. It's just a business that has changed dramatically in my lifetime.
Yeah, and today people are pursuing higher education more and more.
Yes, absolutely.
As more things are automated, and the job market's changing, we're being asked to pursue new skills. And nowadays you don't just go to college and get a bachelor's degree. You go beyond, and there's always more to be learning, and the world's changing in that way.
Yeah, today a bachelor's degree don't mean anything.
Yeah.
You really have a master's, or better yet, a doctorate, and to move. And that's the way I see it anyway. Servicing, what's service today? You don't want to you want to run a McDonald's? I don't think so. Yeah, you could buy a McDonald's, it'd be great. But to sit there and flip hamburgers or be a manager or be a district manager, I would think would be a bad move. I don't know what I'd tell. If one of my grands could come to me and say, Pops, I want to do this, I'd say, listen, go back to school and go to law school, be a lawyer. As long as you can talk, you can make a living. And I have a bunch of lawyers in my family too, because of that.
We are Jewish after all.
Yeah.
It's kind of in our blood at this
Dentists,
point.
doctors, and lawyers,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. You touched on it briefly earlier, but you mentioned that you got married very young,
21.
21. You met your wife at a very young
I was
age.
16
Wow.
or 15 maybe. I don't think I was driving a car yet.
Wow.
I just take a trolley car or a bus over to her place.
For young people today, and in general for anyone in life, one of the most important decisions you can make is, who do you want to spend the rest of your life with, growing with, building with. continuing to give love to for as long as you're fortunate to spend your time with them. How did you know that you found your person? And I want to follow that up with you know, how did your idea of love
It's
change over
amazing that you
time?
asked that. We were just talking about that. Every Sunday, I have dinner with my daughter and my son. We have a family dinner, and which I enjoy very much. I get to see them and we talk because they're busy making a living, and I'm busy watching TV or reading a book. The, I think the most important thing a young man, because I can't talk for young women, is to pick your spouse very carefully. And if you're fortunate enough to meet someone and marry someone or be with someone as they are today, because living together when I was a kid was absolutely forbidden, you know. Uh, my kids, when I bring a girlfriend to visit, I say, you can come, but you're staying in separate rooms in my house. You're living together there, but you're not in my house. But they changed me, and they've worked out pretty good. But I think that's the most important decision that you can make, Judah, is picking out the right gal that's going to support you. And my wife, I used to make tremendous demands on her, really. She really didn't like going to all these affairs and schmoozing and stuff, but she did it because she knew it was helping my career. And I think she did more for me than I did for her, personally. But I don't know what to tell a kid today. You meet someone, you love them, you like them, and you can be compatible. That's it. Don't look any further. But that's my world.
And today's world with, you know, we have so many like abilities to access people. We're so connected more than ever. And that also presents a challenge because whereas, you'd meet someone at age 16 and that's it, like spending the rest of your life with them. Now there's so many people around us and so many choices to make. How do I know that you know,
That's really difficult because when
there's,
I met my wife, the only thing I wanted to do, she was a pretty girl, very pretty girl, had a great bod. All I wanted to do was get really close to her. And it worked out. She said, you could do so much, but you ain't going to do any more. But that's the times I grew up in. And I didn't get married because I wanted to sleep with her. But that was part of it, I guess. But it's very difficult to answer that question. Look, my son, who's a lawyer and a pretty successful lawyer, had a really bad marriage. He got friendly with one of the other partners, and one day the partner's wife came to Daniel, my son, and said, "Listen, your wife is screwing my husband." They were supposed to go to France that year for like a month. They had taken a house out in the boondocks someplace. Maybe it was Tuscany, I don't know. But anyway, they had rented this house and everything. And my son just said that he told his wife, "Is it true?" She said, "Yes." He said, "I'm going." And he divorced her. And luckily, he's got this girl that he went to school with here. So it's not a young girl. She's pretty, but they're very close. And they're as close to being married as I can think. They bought a house together. They just bought a ski house together, too. So now they got two houses together. But it's a very difficult question. How do you know? You don't. You really don't. Did I get that all done?
that was great. And that's the point. You don't, and you take a leap of faith.
Yeah.
You decide, hey, this is someone that I could see myself, spending my life with. And um, I know that, when you first meet someone and you fall in love, it's it's this overwhelming feeling, and it's beautiful and it's new and it's exciting. My other question for you is how have you seen your love change over time? You were with your wife of blessed
For
memory for
70 years.
70 years.
70 years.
How does that change over time when you go from 1 year to 50 to 70 years?
I got to tell you, truthfully, I think I love my wife more when she was 50 than when she was 20. she was just, I don't know, it just, and now that's my case. I don't know. I can't tell you how much I miss her today. She passed away June 23rd, 2 years ago. It's coming up on her second anniversary. And I said to the kids, they said something last night. Let me tell you something. Dad, you don't seem right tonight. I said, you know what? I really miss your mom. And it's going to get better. No, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. And I live in a place which is a nice place. Kind of pricey, but it's okay. I can afford it. But I don't want to be friends with anyone there. I mean, I'd say hello to everybody. Today, there was a guy moved in. He was a colonel in the army, Lou Patone. Nice man, sweet man. I didn't know how old he was. It turns out he was 96 when he moved in. And he fell last week and he passed away this past Shabbos. And I guess I liked him more than most anyone there. He couldn't, he had, I'm sure he was in some form of dementia. He came in one day and he said, I can't find my daughter. Well, your daughter lives here? He said, I don't know how to make the phone call. So I sat with him. I said, Lou, all you got to do is push 0 on your phone. Everyone's given a landline. If they could pull it out if they don't want it. Call 0. Someone's going to answer. Tell them who you are. Your daughter's on register. Tell them to reach your daughter. If not, come down here. 10 or 12 doors away from me. Come down. I'll help you do it. And he passed away. Of all the people there, I really feel worse about him passing away. You know, that's what happens when you start living with a 55 community. And it goes from 55 to 96. I didn't think he was 96. He was a colonel in the army and a nice, gentle man. But it is what it is. You know, can't change those kind of things.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all this, Bob. I want to I want to actually ask you if you have any questions for me because you sit in shul and you watch my, the younger generation of the students here. We come and we pray. And do you have any questions for me about, I guess,
Well,
anything really?
one of the things I said to Rabbi, and I've said this to, let me see who else I said this to there. I guess AJ. I'm like in kindergarten compared to you guys when it comes to Judaism. I can't read a lick of Hebrew, can't speak it. I do everything phonetically, or I pray in English. I mean, if God understood 70 languages, English got to be one of them. So I talk to him in English. But I'm not really sure if there is, and I said this to Rabbi, I would hope and pray that there's something after we pass. But I'm not there yet believing it. I think this is heaven we're living in right now. But I hope before I die I find it so I can have some kind of solace in it. But I'm amazed when I watch Max Dobbin. He's a young kid. He really knows what he's doing. I never seen you get up there yet. Do you do it? Do you ever lead the service there?
I've done it once.
Well, okay.
I've done it once, but no, he does it
Almost every week.
almost every Shabbos morning.
There's a guy that's a teacher. He lives in Arvada. I don't even know his name. Who davens a lot too. A young guy. I mean, I'm amazed at the literacy of the guys and the knowledge of them. So, what can I tell you? What more can I tell you? I don't know.
No, yeah, I spent a lot of time with Max and those other guys, and I myself didn't grow up super literate in at least like prayer Hebrew, which is totally different than conversational Hebrew.
Right.
And I do think that you know, if God understands Hebrew, who are we to say that we can't use our own internal dialogue, which is
Right.
sometimes English, to express our
Do you
prayer?
understand what you're saying in Hebrew?
I've been learning how to,
Okay.
and over the past couple years, I can understand like the meaning of the prayer,
Okay.
not just through the words, but through like the meaning behind it. And
It's funny
it's a
you
cool
asked
thing.
that, Judah. Uh, the guy that really grabbed me when I did fall into Chabad was the assistant rabbi, Rabbi Raychik. And I could sit and question, I could ask him almost anything. And I said to him, Rabbi, I knew what happened. We were in New York for something. It was my first trip to the Ohel. There would have Rebbe. You ever been there?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. And I went in there, and luckily I had some connections, so I got a limousine for us to drive around all day, and then different places we went. And we got there we took a 6 o'clock flight from Florida, so we got there about 10. And the first we went into the place, and the guy said, "We're going to go to the mikveh." Are you kidding me? Okay, so I'll go. I went down. It was a little bitty. Have you been in that where a mikvehs are?
I haven't. Not that one.
It's pretty small and it didn't look really clean, but I went in, didn't kill me. Rabbi Raychik's cousin, while we were there, got killed falling into a subway track. And the train hit him and he killed him. And the rabbi said, Bob, I said, Rabbi, what are you going to do? He says, what am I going to do? I can't do anything. I'm going to pray for his soul. And blah, blah, blah. I said, do you buy that, Rabbi? He says, absolutely. We're going to pray for his soul. He's going to still be around. But he took it very, very calmly. God, Hashem wanted it. It's his plan. Everything is a plan by Hashem. That's part I can't buy. But the religious guys do. Do you buy it now?
It's something I struggle with.
Okay.
I work on growing that relationship I have. I don't think that we're here by chance. I think that all the things that could have happened in order for us not to exist didn't happen for a reason, I guess. There's so many ways in which our world couldn't exist and which you and I couldn't be sitting here having this conversation, or the people listening wouldn't be listening. Everything to me seems so perfect and perfectly placed that we're here right now having this conversation, that I don't think it could be by chance. And so
Rabbi Raychik said that all the time. There are no coincidences, Bob. There's all a plan and a diagram the way this is working. And he believed with every ounce of fiber.
yeah, sometimes I also question whether or not I believe it, and I come back to the thought of, who am I to decide what's real and what's not? I'm so part of the bigger mosaic of what's being built in human life, that maybe I can't see it from being on the inside. Maybe we're so entrenched in human life that it's hard to see the bigger picture, and I think that's the human experience.
Well, there's no one can judge it better than you, Judy, yourself. I say to myself, and I'm saying the same thing for Bob, you have to make your own decision. And look, I sit and watch and marvel with little Mendel, the rabbi's son. I mean, he's like any other kid, 10 or 12 years old. He futzes around, he does this, but man, he could read Hebrew perfectly. And he'll say something, Rabbi will say something to him, and Mendel will say, "Oh, that's so and so." But that's because he's been exposed to it since he's been born. I was never exposed to it. I mean, I went to shul with my pop, and who was very knowledgeable in it. And I think he could read and write 7 or 8 languages. And he only went to school in Russia until he was 16. And when they were going to put him in the army, his dad said, "Get out of here." And he had enough money to go through Europe. It took him like 3 years to get to the States, because he wound up in Ireland and he loved Ireland. And to the day he died, he loved an Irish tenor singing. But I really don't think my dad had the thought there was something after this. We never talked about it, that I can tell you. My mom, I'm sure she had it, that she's going to meet her husband after he passed away when she died. I would like to think that. I would love to have the faith in it, that I'm going to see Rita again, my mom and dad. We'll see. No one's ever come back and said no, but no one's ever come back. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
I think that brings me to the idea that, a lot of other religions are very much focused on afterlife and what happens in
Oh
the
yeah.
afterlife. One thing that I've really connected to in Judaism is that we focus on what are we doing here now. There's a high value of being alive. It's a privilege, and what are we going to do with it? How are we going to elevate the world and make it a better place? And we don't really talk about what's next. We do. It exists. There's literature on it, but it's not our
But it's an
focus.
oblique.
It's not our focus.
Yeah.
You
But you're right. The only arguments I have with my Christian friends is when they start talking about something. We have a particularly religious woman and husband. Well, the husband doesn't come around, but his wife, and I've got to know her a little bit. And she said something about Easter time. I said, well, now let me tell you something. Jesus Christ was born a Jew and died a Jew. It was the schmucks after him that made a new religion. He died a Jew believing in Judaism. That's my thought anyway. And she said, oh. That's how I get in trouble sometimes. But I'd like to have the faith that she has. For sure, she believes Jesus Christ is going to meet her at the door when she dies. Or one of his representatives, I don't know. But, have to decide for yourself.
Yeah.
I want it to be, Judah. I really do. I want to believe that I'm going to see my brothers passed away, my daughter passed away, my folks. I would love to see that I'm going to assemble with them in some spiritual way after I kick the bucket. I'm not there yet, though.
And again, we all have to decide. I don't know if I have the answers either. It's not something. I think that's part of it. Is we don't know.
Oh. But you talk to Rabbi Willem, I guarantee you, if you ask him that question, he'll say without a doubt.
It's true. He has stronger faith and trust than many most people that I know.
And his wife the same way,
Yeah.
Leah.
Yeah.
There's some of those young girls that I started to know. I don't know all their names, but I know who they are and they know who I am. And they're pretty good. They really believe in it. They're working their tuchus off. They don't get paid. Okay, it's an interesting thought. I hope that I'm wrong. I used to kid my brother who was pretty religious. I said, look, Mort, I don't spend all the time that you spend. He's been president of the shul, he did all these things. He's a doctor. And I said, if I'm wrong, God will forgive me. And if I'm right, look all the time I saved. And he would get so angry at me. But that was my philosophy then. And it's probably part of it today. If I'm wrong, God will forgive me. If I'm right, I don't know. It's a bad choice being right.
It's difficult.
Yeah, it is.
I have another question for you about, again, bringing our focus back, which is the focus of Judaism on like this life. What's our mission? What's our purpose? What do you feel like looking back um, is the legacy that you will leave in all of your time that you spent here? I know that's a big question, but if there's something that you want to share of what you feel like your legacy has been with your family and your loved ones and your communities that you've been part
The
of.
legacy for my family is they know that first and foremost is my family. And they're not even close to anything else. Uh, Today, especially moving out of my area that lived in Florida for 25 years, I made some really good friends. I played a lot of golf with great guys. But the only one I care for today is my family. I have some acquaintances. I don't call them friends anymore because I haven't been living here long enough to have a friend. But I have some nice acquaintances, but nothing like my family. You know. But my kids can't figure out either. Dad, how come you go to shul every Saturday? I don't know. That's where I go, and they know not to make anything on a Saturday morning. Yeah, you want to do something at 2 o'clock? I'm available. I get out there at 12:30 or 12 o'clock, whatever time I leave, and I'll do whatever you want. You want to go up to the mountains? You want to go skiing? You want to go this? But they kind of question it too, because they all are good Jews, though. My son was married to a non-Jew. This girl, this adulteress that he had, was married to. She was a nasty person, an evil person, and he made sure that his two girls got a Jewish education. And he spent about $50,000 or $60,000 last year taking them to Israel. Got a really great tour. We have cousins there, and they got this company, but they really won first class every place. But the kids all wear Star of David, and if you ask them, they say, "Well, no, of course I'm Jewish." So he's done as much as he could, and my daughter too. Uh, he married a non-Jew, nice girl, really super girl, have great kids. Comes past every once in a while. We're having a Seder. Comes Yom Kippur once in a pops. Can I come to shul? And when he was going to school here, and I first met Rabbi Willem on 17th Street. My son's first house there when he came back was on a corner of 18th and Baseline on the west side. Really great house. And I would walk down to the rabbi's house on Friday night. She said, "Why don't you bring your son and grandson for dinner one night, Shabbos dinner?" Okay. Kids went. They loved it. Didn't go back, but they enjoyed being with him, and they're good Jews. You know, I always say they're Jews of the heart. The rabbi gets, a Chabad rabbi will accept it for a while, but he's going to do something to tell me you're a Jew. Well, I said they give a lot of money, so, well, that's good. That's a start.
I think you touched on something really important, and is that everything that we do in life, whether it's our, friendships, even though they may be, really great friendships or business, it all kind of fades away, and we are left with the people that we love and the people that we've, invested into and we care for and who care for us. And at the end of the day, those are the people that are the most important. Those are the people that carry on our personal legacies. And I
Yeah.
see that. I look at my grandparents, and I sat down and had a similar conversation not too long ago with my grandfather before he got sick, and I asked him about his just stories.
Religious guy?
No, not a religious guy. Grew up, conservative Jew, and married into my family, and um, it, has made my grandmother and my family super happy, and everyone loves him so much. And I got to spend some time and ask him these questions and have him share stories, and recorded it. And he, now that he is, his health has declined recently. I'm so grateful that I got to, ask him those questions. I think it's important. It's important to do.
It
And
sure is. Yes, it is. The kids always, well, particularly my son, well, Dad, what did you do? How did you do that? He's inquisitive. My daughter says, "Dad, whatever you did is good with me." He wants to know why I did certain things, but that's okay. That's okay. Uh, the last two Passovers that he was married, there's a woman in town called, I think they call her the Adventure Rabbi, a woman. Her name is Jamie. I don't know what her second name is. And they went to the Mohav for Pesach. Cost a fortune because they put up tents, they bring the food from Denver, but they loved it. Everyone loved it. So they did it again. They haven't done it lately because his two kids one's in Fordham University and the other one's in Santa Barbara, Southern Cal, Santa Barbara. So they come in for a night or two, but they want to have a Seder. Uh, my granddaughter in New York said to her father, "Dad, I haven't had any matzo ball soup. What am I going to do here?" So he sent her some matzo ball soup from one of the places. But they're okay in their own ways.
so I have one final question for you,
Okay.
and you can share it and go in any direction you want. But what's one final message you want to leave to anyone who may be listening, whether it's someone who's also looking back on their lives, or someone who's looking forward and is looking for direction, looking to start building, looking for an aim in life, what's your final message?
Well, I can say this with truthfully and with my heart, is that if you're a Jew and you've not practiced being a Jew, do it. There's an awful lot of good stuff in Judaism. There really is. I mean, I read Chabad.org every day, and it's amazing some of these stories. I think some of them were made up a little bit, but investigate their religion. I guess I could say that to a Christian kid too, really. Uh, but that's about it. We done?
We're done.
All
Thank you.
right.
Thank you so much for coming on,
Thank you,
Bob.
Judah. I enjoyed it.
Me too.